So I believe those are the bolts to get our lower parts of the fairing off, both sides. Well, here's the patient. I'm working on an 84 Goldwing. Stator has gone bad at this point. Did a bunch of research, grappled with cracking the motor, replacing the stator. All the research seemed to indicate that that thing could pop at any point in time. When I bought this thing, I think the stator had already been fried. I only have probably 50 miles on it. Unfortunately, I got a heck of a deal on it, so I can't complain too much, but there's some lights on here that the gentleman before me had put on it. There are some additional lights up here that I've already taken off. Those particular lights were very down here, right on that bracket. What I've done so far is taken the lower fairing off. That's what these pieces here on my one cart are. I can show you some more details of that, but just some basic pieces. And most importantly, I went ahead and got a Poorboy kit. I ended up getting this off of eBay, somebody that was parting out an 85 Goldwing. I should have had a little more patience. I had sent a message off to Don, got a message back from him literally probably 2 hours after I had placed the order for this. Saved me about $50 on what Don was charging. However, I think there's a couple electrical pieces that I'm going to have to go out and get. And really at this point, yes, I could reach out to Don with questions, but don't feel right about doing that. So hopefully with my documentation that we have here today, I'm going to be able to make this happen. So I started the process. I have disconnected the radiator and let that drain. So I'm now ready to take that radiator off. Cleared out the original horn out of this area. At the end of the day, that whole piece is going to end up coming out of there, and so we will go through the cutting of that, and this will be my documentation, and hopefully it will help others out as well. Stay tuned. My guess is that will have to come out as well. We'll see what those look like once I get the radiator itself loosened up. I'm sure that'll have to come off. Radiator nuts are off. Everything is loose. Still stuck. Had to take part of this upper area off. 10 millimeter on the two bolts, or the two nuts that are holding that in. Took off the seat so that I could give myself some more room here. Right there, one on each side, the largest size of the Allen wrench. These pieces here, one on each side, come off. This is actually on this side because this is the lower part. Just pops out and slides out, as you can see, based on that. Once that comes out, you've got 4 10 millimeters, one here, one here, one on this side and the other, which brings this entire cover off, ultimately allowing us to get down into here and see our radiator cap, see the hose that is actually holding us up, I believe, at this point. Take off that clamp, take off the hose, slide out the radiator. Take off the radiator cap before you take it out or put it back in. On the right side of the bike, last piece on the radiator, this electrical clip comes out. Just push it in right above here and it slides right out. Took off the bolts, the largest T connector, or star I should say, on my Allen set. These will come out. Two on this side, same size. On the left side, the longer one goes on the outside. The shorter one goes on the inside. Alright, got the covers off, the timing belt covers. Was a little bit, I was kind of surprised, I guess, at how snug they were. Note on the bottom here, there's a couple clips that will protrude out. I just took a screwdriver and on the one side just popped it out with my hand. On the other side I had to tap it with a hammer a couple times and it popped right out. We've gone ahead, we've changed out the timing belts. That went pretty good. While I had those off, once I put everything back on, I decided I want to get everything snug and dialed in from a timing belt standpoint. Then took impact wrench on the 19mm bolt there, buzzed that off, put the new pulley on. It still is not tight yet. What I then did was kind of dry set bumping up against here so that I could determine kind of where that pulley was and where it was going to fall. And then I just used a good old-fashioned actually grinder to grind up what I needed. And this is the other half. Now what you do want to do is you want to put the right side in, or the left side as you're looking at the bike, as we are here. You want to get that in first, because if you don't, you will not be able to A, get that bolt in, and B, be able to draw it up. So do that first. I got that off of another posting, and as I was dry setting this, it became obvious that I needed to do that. This side does go in first, the other side then goes over the top. I'm really at the point where I'm going to go ahead and cut off the metal and dry set essentially the so we're going to buzz this off here. Actually, let me back up. We're going to be buzzing it off in this area right here. So upon doing that, but before I do that, I'm actually going to dry set the cover for this side back on, just so that I ensure that no shavings get in there, and then I'll also put something over this area before I cut that stuff off. And if you change your timing belt, make sure that you put this plug back in before you do any cutting. At least that's my recommendation. We don't want any filings to have any shot of getting in there. And I'll probably hook this hose up here in just a second also, breather hose. Alright, so I've got it dry set in, if you will. Had to take it out a number of times and make some adjustments on the radiator. Have it to a point now where I can put in the Loctite and put the covers on, but kind of wanted to show you a little bit here underneath. It's a little hard to see. I'll take some shots here after I pull this back out. Here's the piece that we cut out, and that ultimately happened right here. Sawzall on that, and then cut up underneath. I did put in a washer on this bracket on each side. I'll show you that here after I take it out, to lower the whole thing a little bit, because I was pretty snug here. Ended up down on the radiator actually putting in, if I can get over here, 3 washers on each side, snugging that up. That gave me the right clearance that I needed in there for the belt. I'll show you what I did to the radiator here after I get that out. So taking it out one last time, probably had the radiator in and out about a half a dozen times last night, getting everything set, and I'll show you some of the adjustments I made there. Alright, looking at our radiator adjustment. So ended up replacing these, which went here, 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 with a 1-inch version of this. If we can get underneath, oops, sorry about that glare. Let's try from the side here. So nut underneath, nut on top, essentially brought it in from the opposite way on all three of them. You'll notice that the one in the very front, we needed a lot more clearance in order to get around this here. So just make your adjustments, and very close, but we do have the space. So the other thing is that in order to get the belt on, right here broke the weld, so that I could slide that through. Once I got that in, realized that the pulley was hitting here, was able to cut this out actually with the grinder, and get enough clearance without needing to touch at all the fan blades. So was able to get the right combination. I attribute it primarily to adjusting the fan forward with these pieces, which was better than having to do a bunch of additional grinding other than just this piece on the radiator.